So are we going to get a stimulus check or a stimulus package? Let's talk about it and figure out exactly where we're at. But before we do, if this is your first time at our channel or you haven't subscribed, click on the subscribe button at the bottom. My name is Travis Sickle, certified financial planner, helping you reach your financial goals. So last week, the HEROES Act was passed by the House of Representatives, and it was $2.2 trillion. Now there's numbers going back and forth between $2.2 trillion and $2.4 trillion. I have no idea why, but it is $2.2 trillion in the HEROES Act. Now that got passed by the House of Representatives, but knowing that the Senate was not going to pass the HEROES Act 2.0. So where are we with that, and why didn't it go forward? Well, the reason that it went forward was the Democrats were looking for a win. To come back and say that they put in the HEROES Act 2.0, that there was another stimulus package, more stimulus checks coming, and additional unemployment. But it was over 2,000 pages long. And this thing right here is 87 pages long. And that's just the outline for the HEROES Act. Now here's where it gets the most confusing, and it's with the state and local funding that we've been talking about over and over again. But the HEROES Act 2.0, or number 2, whatever you want to call it, has $436 billion set aside for state and local funding. But if you can recall, a couple of weeks ago, Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin testified before Congress saying that every single state had additional money left over, and they also had access to additional capital if they needed it. So if the states and localities need additional money, it sounds like they have access to it, but I haven't heard anything to the contrary where they didn't have that money. And even though the House Democrats came down almost in half from their original proposal of about $1 trillion for state and local funding, but that was to cover roughly 2 years worth of state and local spending, where the $436 billion is geared for 1 year. And I don't really think a lot of people realized how long the amount of money they were asking for would last. $436 billion will still last an entire year worth of expenses. And then Trump tweeted this: Nancy Pelosi is asking for $2.4 trillion to bail out poorly run, high crime Democrat states, money that is in no way related to COVID-19. We made a very generous offer of $1.6 trillion. And as usual, she is not negotiating in good faith. I am rejecting their request and looking to the future of our country. I have instructed my representatives to stop negotiating until after the election, when, immediately after I win, we will pass a major stimulus bill that focuses on hardworking Americans and small businesses. And that tweet did not go unanswered. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi put out a press release talking about Trump not wanting to move forward with negotiations. And here's what she said, or here's what the press release says. It says, today, once again, President Trump showed his true colors, putting himself first at the expense of the country with the full complicity of the GOP members of Congress. Walking away from coronavirus talks demonstrates that President Trump is unwilling to crush the virus, as is required by the HEROES Act. He showed his contempt for science, his disdain for our heroes in healthcare, first responders, sanitation, transportation, food workers, teachers, and others. And he refuses to put money in workers' pockets unless his name is printed on the check. Okay, so on the one hand, that's coming from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, that's coming from the Democrats, and that is obviously going to be in opposition to anything the Republicans do. But then she quotes Federal Chair Jerome Powell on the economic outlook. And he said, quote, "Too little support would lead to a weak recovery. Even if policy actions ultimately prove to be greater than needed, they will not go to waste." And that's where the confusion sets in, is that Federal Chair Jerome Powell said yesterday that additional stimulus is needed. So it looked like there was support from the feds on giving an additional stimulus package or stimulus check. Now, they weren't exactly clear on which parts of additional stimulus was needed, but additional stimulus is needed. And then President Trump followed up with 2 tweets for additional stimulus, the airlines, and for the PPP program for small businesses. And here's what he said: "If I am sent a standalone bill for stimulus checks, they will go out to our great people immediately. I am ready to sign right now. Are you listening, Nancy?" He's talking right to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and saying, give me a bill with the stimulus checks and I'll sign it right now. But of course, she still wants to see state and local funding and the other parts to a stimulus package. And he later followed up with another tweet on the airlines and the PPP, and here's what he said. The House and Senate should immediately approve $25 billion for airline payroll support and $135 billion for Paycheck Protection Program for small businesses. Both of these will be fully paid for with unused funds from the CARES Act. Have this money, I will sign now. Now, were these just negotiating tactics from both sides, with the Democrats and the HEROES Act 2.0, knowing that the HEROES Act 2.0 with $2.2 trillion was not going to get passed by the Senate or the president? But then on the other side, with the president coming back and saying, listen, we're ready to sign for stimulus checks, additional PPP money, and airline funds, but also knowing that they weren't going to pass anything for the state and local funding. So which is it? Is it a negotiation, or are we really not going to have a stimulus package moving forward? Now, let me know in the comments down below if you think that we'll actually get a next stimulus check and a next stimulus package. And that is the update for October the 7th for the second stimulus check and the next stimulus package. And if you've enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and leave your comments down at the bottom.